Connor, 3 points in Game 5, 40 career postseason points, second most in Jets franchise history. And he matched Blake Wheeler for the most three-point games in Jets franchise history. This playoffs, Connor has a team leading 8 points in 5 games. Scott Arniel, Jets head coach, had no update on Mark Scheifele after the game. Here's Martin Biron to talk about the situation. It was interesting, Marty. Blues head coach Jim Montgomery said after the game that he believes it wasn't the Brayden Schenn hit in which Scheifele got injured, because Scheifele played a few minutes after that. It was a hit from Radek Faksa that actually injured Scheifele. Regardless, this will be a massive story, obviously, going into Game 6 on Friday. Yeah. But how do you feel about the way the Jets dealt with the absence of Scheifele in the second and third period?
Well, they responded really well, obviously. Look, I don't know what hit, but it was 2 really big hits. And the Schenn hit could have affected Scheifele to later get hit by Faksa, play the rest of the period, doesn't feel good after the first period in the intermission, doesn't come back out. But here's the thing, right? You're looking at this was a very physical first period. The Jets responded with the physicality. And I love this from Scott Arniel at the start of the second period. He's not going to fold. He's not going to just lay down. He let the official know, but it's also a message to everybody. We are not going to quit. We're going to keep pushing forward, even though we lost Mark Scheifele. And what did the Jets do in the second period? They outshot St. Louis 14-3, Jay. They dominated that second period. It could have been, one of those like stick in your wheels when you're riding the bike kind of moment in the second period where you don't have your best player. No, Scott Arniel with his emotion, his anger, got the team going, and they had one of the best period of hockey they've played in the postseason in that second period, and it set the tone. They were up 4-2 after that middle 20 minutes.
And, Marty, as you know, so much pressure on Connor Hellebuyck going into this game, back home. I loved what Hellebuyck said on our show yesterday, Marty. He said, I've studied goaltending more than anyone in the world, and I know how to get to my best game. I love when he says stuff like this. How close was he to his best game on Wednesday night, in your opinion?
Still not there. Look, it was better. And what I loved about Connor Hellebuyck in this game is his feet were moving, right? There was a lot of shuffle, move. And when he was down, he was back up. I tell all my young goalies, you got to play like you got springs. Every time you go down, you got to get back up. That save, obviously. I thought his feet were a little stuck in the cement right there before him, but he still made the save. That's Connor Hellebuyck. But I love the quickness that he showed in this game, the aggressive nature that he showed in this game. Now, he gave up a bad goal, right? The 4-2 goal, that's a bad goal. You don't love seeing that. He didn't get himself over. He probably thought he was on the angle and the shot was going to miss the net. But you see, he was slow to get over in a shuffle push, and he wasn't in the right angle. But overall, I think this is the right next step. It wasn't going to be easy for Connor Hellebuyck to, all of a sudden bounce back after being pulled in back-to-back games in St. Louis. But that was a first step. That was a good first step, and I loved his motor. The legs need to be moving, and they were moving in this game.
Marty, let's take a pause here to hear from Jets head coach Scott Arniel about the Brayden Schenn hit on Mark Scheifele.
Well, I didn't know Monty got his medical degree. I'm trying to say how our player got hurt. He's way off base. Should not make that comment. There's some things that have been going on in this series, and that was a repeat of what we've seen before. A player leaving his feet and then hitting a player in a very unprotected spot, like hitting them in the sense almost blindsiding them. Not happy how the call was made. 2-minute minor. Not even looking at it is what I was upset about. And it is something that we have talked to the league about for 5 games.
You can hear the emotion in Scott Arniel's voice, Marty.
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on those comments?
I love Arnie. He was my assistant coach in Buffalo for a few years, and I got to know him, and I know that he loves his players, and I know that he wants to protect his players, and he's absolutely right. I don't think that was fair for Jim Montgomery to go and comment on another players on the other team. I think what he's doing is that so that the league maybe doesn't look at supplemental discipline for Brayden Schenn because, that wasn't the hit. But you don't have to comment on the other team's player. I love that from Scott Arniel. He's protecting his player. And there has been some very, very questionable hits in this series. And look, I don't think Schenn left his feet. The feet came off the ice after the impact, but it was a launching upward. That is what you don't like. Because when you launch upward, you're going to hit somebody high, and you can hit the head. I don't think there was head contact very Like it wasn't the main point of contact, but it was late. It was an unsuspected player, and it was very sneaky. So I think that I love what Scott Arniel is saying there, protecting his player, one player that they need to be able to continue on and go on to win the cup.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about, Marty, the Jets 2 for 14 on the man advantage in this playoff series so far, after being the #1 power play in the league all regular season. Do they have to get it going to win Game 6 on Friday?
It's hard to get it going because they haven't had their top power play healthy, right? When, Velarde and Ehlers weren't there. Ehlers is still not there. Now Scheifele is not there for, the last 2 periods. So it's really hard to get it going. But I think over time, when the bodies are going to come back, they can get it going. The more important thing now is win the special team battle, or at least tie the special team battle. And in the first 3 games of the series, actually in the first 4 games of the series, the Jets took too many penalties. The St. Louis Blues were had 18 power plays in the first 4 games. That's too many. At least they only gave the Blues 1 power play in this Game 5, and the Blues went 0 for 1. So you went 1 for 1 on the penalty kill. That's what you got to do. That's how you can compensate for your power play not producing right now. I'm going to give the power play a pass. Like I said, they haven't had the Ehlers. They haven't had Velarde for the first 4 games. He comes back. Scheifele gets out. So it's not easy to move in pieces. Sometimes 1 is easier, but now they've had to have 2 new piece in. It's hard. But at least the penalty kill and the discipline in Game 5 balanced it out where you're not getting, beaten in the special team battle.
So the Jets have a chance to wrap this series up Friday night, Game 6 in St. Louis.